what should we spend on? What should we save?
I think for me, the important things, that are going to bring about most change are your serums. So often I'll sort of say to my clients, as opposed to going into like a department store and sort of opting for some of those brands, I may say to them, just go and get, go to the chemist and get like a QV or a Cetaphil or a La Roche-Posay, sort of, a more affordable cleanser and moisture, and then start off on your serums. But I guess, it's like anything, buying a car, you've got your cheaper versions, you've got your more expensive versions. So, some of these more expensive versions, it could be expensive because of branding companies, but at the same time, it could be, particularly when you're looking in your more medical clinics at times as well, it could be that there's a lot more research and science and preparation and more sort of, specific processes that have gone into sort of manufacturing and making those products. So cheap is not always better, expensive is not always better.
Welcome to Midlife Unraveled, the podcast that opens the door to this incredible stage of life. Together, we'll explore new opportunities that boost your confidence and extend your horizons. I'm your host, Anita Gilbert, and every week I'm joined by fascinating guests as we explore new ideas, debunk myths, and unveil opportunities for you to confidently redefine your midlife. Plus, we always manage a laugh along the way. I'm thrilled to have you here. Despite being a complete skincare junkie, I do find it confusing about the difference of products and everything out there on offer, especially when midlife skin changes hit us. So it's lucky we have Lisa Rush to chat to today, who cuts through all the noise to give us a nice, clear picture. I hope you enjoy. Lisa, I am so excited to welcome you to Midlife Unraveled.
Thank you so much, Anita. I'm very excited to be featured today.
Excited to be here. So you have so many years' experience as a registered nurse in aesthetic medicine, and you've seen and studied midlife skin. So I was so excited to speak to you. So you've seen the changes and also experienced firsthand what works and what doesn't. So I am a complete skincare obsessive.
Yeah.
So I'm so delighted to get into this subject with you.
Amazing.
So kicking off, what changes does our skin undergo when we hit midlife?
Yeah. Well, when we hit midlife, we've got a number of things that are happening, and it's not just our skin on the surface, it's what's going on inside our bodies too. And so aging and skin changes can be influenced firstly by internal health. So genetics play a big part in terms of what aging patterns we're going to see and what problems that may develop on our skin. That could be acne, aging, pigmentation. Diet and lifestyle can also affect our internal aging, which has an impact on our skin. And then also as well, you've got...
Is that particularly...
Sorry,
is that lack of sunscreen and just sun damage?
That's more external.
More environmental factors?
No, so more internally. Obviously, diet and lifestyle can affect as well. So some people, if they have abnormal hormone imbalance, they may be more prone to pimples or pigmentation production, or they may suffer from, perimenopause or acne that may develop. So internally, we've got changes that affect our skin. Then externally, particularly as we get to midlife, we start to see superficial changes. And usually the superficial changes are a result of our environment. So that could be pigmentation, textural changes due to the UV damage that we're getting from the ultraviolet rays in the environment. But also as well, pollution has an effect on our skin and can also accelerate aging that happens. So internal effects and external. Now our face, what I usually explain to clients is, it's not just our skin we need to think about. Our skin is our kind of outer layer. It's our biggest organ within our body, but our skin on our face is also supported by the underneath structures. And so as we hit midlife, things like our muscles, our fat and our bone are also changing. And that also has an effect on how our skin looks as we age. So wrinkle formation, obviously our muscles are moving weaker skin. We tend to deplete in our fat volume, and so that's not so much support for the skin, so we may get lines and folds get a little bit deeper. And then as we get older, we've obviously got bony change, which can affect sagging too.
How much can we do to support the muscle structure? You say the muscles, there's an effect there. You hear about things like facial yoga and all these kind of strange face exercises. Do they actually make a difference?
Yeah.
Or
well, look, I guess even if you
are we just doing silly faces in the mirror?
look, there's not a lot of research behind, I guess, facial yoga, but we do know that the effect of muscles do impact how the support structure on top is affected. And in actual fact, really interesting, we have been seeing in the last couple of years treatments that are now starting to focus on treating the muscles in the face. And so there is some muscle stimulation machines that are becoming way more focused and targeted to try and impact and also work out your lifting muscles to help the support of the tissue and the structures. So there's some really exciting things that I think will progress in terms of offering that in the future. We've also got wrinkle muscle reducing treatments as well that also help to relax muscles that are creating increased creasing in an area too. So, when somebody does step into a clinic, moving forward, there are lots of different options that are going to start to really sort of advance in the future.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's a certain degree of, yes, we want to embrace the skin that we have and everything else, but I think most of us out there are very keen to, to make the most of what we have,
Exactly.
and to really, see what improvements we can do. So, is there a lot that we can do with at-home products, or are these just really brushing the surface?
No, I think home care is so important, and it's really actually underestimated. I mean, our biggest thing, number one, is wearing sunscreen on our face every day. There's so many people that don't. And so, first of all, trying to protect from that UV damage in our environment is really crucial, especially in places like Australia. We've got really high UV levels. So number one, sunscreen is your priority. Number two is you can introduce ingredients into the skin that, help to first of all support. So our skin is a barrier, and sometimes that barrier does change and get a little bit depleted as we age, or due to things that we're putting on our skin that aren't quite right. But it is important, to nourish the skin with particular vitamins and antioxidants. And they can help to, prevent that degradation of the skin cells, but also as well, they can also help to support collagen and that cell renewal process. In terms of visual changes,
it's nice.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I was going to say.
No, it's nice to know that there is actually quite a lot that we can do. It doesn't have to be, a lot of people don't feel comfortable having any kind of intervention. So, from a good at-home routine can actually make a big difference to us.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. And I think age appropriate as well. So, I mean, obviously, in our younger years, it's all about protecting our skin from that sun damage. So, introducing sunscreen, number one. But then as we do get older and we are going through those midlife stages, there are definitely other things that we can supplement in to optimize and really sort of support our skin health. Healthier your skin is, the less that you're going to see some of these aging changes happening. It's the same for internal health too, diet and lifestyle. That also is going to help.
Exactly. And water. I think hydration is huge, isn't it?
Hydration. Nobody drinks enough water. Although I love the new iPhone. Now they've got water reminders on, and there are things that you can do to kind of trigger yourself to get.
No.
But there's little apps.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Hydration is key.
I love that.
Our body needs to function well.
We do. So looking at home routines, can you run us through a few things? It is so confusing out there. If you go into a department store, if you go into a chemist and have a look at the range of different products out there, there are serums and lotions and potions for everything. So
I agree.
I would love to hear from you. What is it that is going to make the biggest difference? Let's start with that. What do you think is going to have the most impact?
Well, I completely agree. Like, it is overwhelming out there. Even for me as a practitioner, I'm like, oh my God, this product's come out. There's a minefield of things that you can put on your skin that aren't necessarily suitable or good for your skin. Now, the way I explain it to clients is number one, you can categorize your skin products. You've got products that you can go into your David Jones and pick off the counter. So they're designed to really, not create much change in the skin, but at the same time, they're not going to cause any sort of harm if you overuse it, etc. But it is, these are products that potentially do have, more irritating ingredients, which may not necessarily be suitable for all skin types. Now, the next step up from your department store type of products is you've got products that you might get in your beauticians or your medical clinics. And what you'll find is that the ingredients in these sorts of products will be more simplified in terms of having the target ingredients that are going to benefit your skin, but may not necessarily have as much of the, increased preservatives and things that could be irritating. Now, don't get me wrong, products need preservatives in order for them to, effectively be penetrated into the skin, but also as well to last on the shelf. So it's using the right ones so that are not going to over-irritate. Your third category of products are obviously your prescriptives. And so you can go to the GP and dermatologist and you can get much stronger ingredients that can target specific things and create much more change. But typically the prescriptives may be something that you use more on a short-term basis for a specific target. Now, I always say to clients, keep your home routine simple. We don't need to overload our barrier. Our skin barrier naturally has been doing a fantastic job of looking after our surface for a long time. So we don't want to be introducing lots of things on a day-to-day basis because it can actually have the opposite effect. And what we're tending to see a lot in practice now is where people are overusing products is that potentially they're getting irritation within the skin. And so sometimes, the remedy for that is I say to clients, we're going to go cold turkey on your products now. We're going to simplify things right down. Let your skin barrier settle, and then we'll introduce simple things. Now, in terms of your day routine, what's good? Sorry, after you. So I say to clients...
No, I was going to say that idea of going cold turkey I think would be horrifying for me. As a skincare junkie, I think it would be hard.
Well, when I get them,
so why don't you take us through...
When I get them to go cold turkey, though, I do still incorporate some basics in. So, from a morning and a nighttime perspective, keeping it simple. Cleansing is really good, but cleansers, again, it's all about what your skin type is. If you're an oilier skin type, it might be a gel type cleanser that might suit you a bit better to get off that excess oil. If you're a more sensitive skin type or a more dehydrated and more mature, it might be something like a cream or an oil cleanser. So something that doesn't irritate the barrier, but cleans the skin and gets those pollutants off. Now, daytime serum-wise...
What about using water? Is water very drying? I've heard that water is very drying for your skin. Is that true or not?
Look, I think that some water's not going to get off the pollutants on the skin, and sometimes it's not going to get off the congestion of dead skin that tends to accumulate as we age. So, yes, you can use water, but it's not really going to give you an effective clean on that area there. And also as well, I guess when we're using any sort of serums, we also want to make sure that we prepare the skin in order to optimize those serums sort of penetrating into the surface. Now, daytime serum, if you're going to think about it, is thinking about ingredients that help to protect against the UV. So, you've got antioxidants, and antioxidants can come in different forms. Most people have heard about things like vitamin C. There's also things like vitamin B, which can be really excellent. But with anyone thinking about introducing a serum, sometimes it is good to get advice from a professional, because if your barrier is really dehydrated or it's a very strict barrier that's very sensitive, then introducing things just over the counter like a vitamin C to some can be very irritating. And sometimes you have to prepare the skin in order to introduce certain ingredients into it. My favorite for a newbie is probably vitamin B, so niacinamide. Niacinamide is an excellent vitamin. It has lots of different effects on the skin, and I find it's a really good one that I tend to introduce people to if they've never been on any form of vitamins or antioxidants before. And then step number 3 in the morning.
So what will that do for the skin?
Yeah, so niacinamide.
What will niacinamide do for the skin?
Yeah, so there's lots of studies on niacinamide and the effects of the skin. So it helps to inhibit pigmentation formation, which pigment is usually formed as a result of a defense mechanism from UV. So it's what they call a pigment inhibitor. It can help with balancing hydration within the skin and oiliness within the skin. So it's often something that we also incorporate, not only into a dehydrated, a normal skin, a dry skin, but also an acne, pimple-prone skin. Niacinamide is a really hero ingredient as well. But it does it in a gentle way where it's not going to be irritating. So vitamin C is excellent. It does help to support collagen production. It does help to prevent against oxidative stress from the environment, but different formulations of vitamin C in the wrong skin types can be really irritating. So it's something to introduce with caution.
Mm-hmm.
And then, light moisture and then sunscreen is your number one for the morning.
Mm. What about hyaluronic acid? I've heard a lot about hyaluronic acid lately, and it seems to be popping up in serums, in creams, everywhere.
Yeah. Well,
what does it do, and should we be using it?
So hyaluronic acid is part of our natural tissue makeup. So we have hyaluronic acid within our skin or the deeper layers of the skin. So it is part of that sort of natural moisturizing factor and deeper layer of the skin. So it can be a hydrator for the skin. So it's a bit like giving your skin a drink of water. Hyaluronic does like to draw fluid into the molecule though, so you still have to be mindful of how you're using it. So if somebody is introducing hyaluronic and they're in a really dry environment and they pop that onto dry skin, then sometimes it wants to draw a little bit of the moisture from that skin, and so it can be a little bit irritating in some people. And so the best thing with hyaluronic, if you do want to introduce it in, it is, yes, great for all skin types. It's really non-irritating. Is popping onto very mildly damp skin is excellent. And then obviously hyaluronic acid, that's, even though we're not really meant to say the ingredients wise, but in terms of in-clinic treatments, there are treatments that we then utilize that with for optimizing the skin and the deeper layers.
Right. So we've looked at hyaluronic, we've looked at vitamin C. What other things are effective?
Yeah, so nighttime routine. Nighttime routine is always a good time to think about, okay, I want to help to, think of this as my corrective phase of my skin routine. And so again, cleansing number one. Number two, you can introduce a serum. Now that serum might look like, if somebody has pigmentation, they could incorporate a serum that helps to brighten their skin. Although another really popular ingredient, which has got lots of studies behind it in terms of supporting cellular turnover and collagen production, is vitamin A. And vitamin A comes in different formulations. So retinol is something that we've kind of all heard of. That's a form of vitamin A, and that is an excellent ingredient to introduce to your regime. But again, if somebody has never used something like a vitamin A and they introduce it too quickly and too much of it, it can have negative side effects that can form. So I think with anyone that's considering, again, introducing any sort of serums, it's good to get a little bit of advice from somebody that's more of a skin specialist, whether that's a dermatologist or a aesthetic nurse like myself or your dermatologist, because they will help you to guide yourself in terms of purchasing the right serums that are going to suit your skin.
Would it be a case of starting these serums using a lower dosage, or would it be a case of using it like every third or fourth night?
Correct.
That sort of thing.
Definitely. So we know that, different preparations are on the market. What you get in terms of, for example, a retinol that you might get in your cosmetic medical clinic is going to be stronger than something that you're going to get over the counter in a department store. So, for example, some products in a department store might have things like pro-retinol. Now, what we know is those ingredients, by the time it's kind of converted into any sort of activity within the skin, it's not really going to do a huge amount. And so in terms of the impact on the skin, yes, it's going to be minimal, but it could be a good way to introduce your skin to different ingredients. Although when we get into the clinic, things like retinol do come at different strengths. So absolutely, we want to start off on a lower strength. Make sure that your skin is already used to certain ingredients before we start it. And then, yes, we usually recommend clients that start off on a much slower routine. So they may introduce it once a week to begin with, or then increase it to twice a week. And then as long as there's no sort of excessive irritation or redness or dryness, they can gradually increase that dosing up to suit their needs. Yeah. What's really important is...
And is retinol...
Was going to say with things like, with skin ingredients as well, it's really important, if somebody is considering trying for a baby or they are pregnant, there are certain ingredients they cannot use. And that's why I sort of really emphasize, when patients are sort of starting on a journey of home care, it is good to get that little bit of initial supportive advice just to make sure that they're introducing the right things for them at the right time to support their skin.
Absolutely, absolutely. So in terms of the retinol, just coming back to that, will you get the same effect if you use a retinol serum versus retinol in a cream? What is the impact of that?
Yeah, I guess it's all about, look, yes, cream or serum, it's all about who's preparing them, what's the company that's providing them. So, again, it might be something that you're getting again over the counter in David Jones. They're saying it's retinol, but in actual fact, it's not overly strong. Whereas when you're going into your clinic, you'll get your more pure forms. And then obviously at your GP, there's other forms of retinol that you can get. It's not retinol, it has a different name that's slightly stronger as well. So, serums or creams really don't make a huge impact. It's about the ingredients that are in those preparations for things like your retinol.
Is stronger better when it comes to retinol?
No, not necessarily. Yeah. Look, some preparations may have more of an impact in terms of, reducing the signs of age spots or enhancing texture or improving acne-prone skin. But not everybody can necessarily cope with the stronger preparations, and so that in itself can create irritation to the skin. So again, it's about selecting what's the concern that we're targeting and how do we go about it and what's the skin like to begin with.
Right, okay. And then is it, after we've used a serum, whatever that form may take, is it important to use a moisturizer over the top?
Yeah, it is good to pop a barrier on the top. I agree with that. But again, moisturizers are also a bit of a minefield. If somebody's got a more oilier prone skin, then a lightweight lotion as opposed to a rich, thick, balmy, heavy cream is going to be better for them. If you've got a more mature, sort of aged, dehydrated skin, then you might want to get a much more richer thing, things that got things like ceramides that are going to create that moisture lock-in.
Right. And what about face oils? We've heard a lot about face oils lately. They seem to be everywhere.
Yeah.
Is smothering our face in an oil going to do anything?
Look, there is some great oils out there. I'm not a big fan of oils myself. And sometimes, yeah, I agree. I do see clients that are overusing oils. And then sometimes you're seeing little sort of signs of congestion that's building up on their skin. Sometimes a really sort of, menopausal dehydrated skin, they may love the feel of that oil. But again, it's about, the preparations. And, so for example, we do have an oil in clinic. It's developed by The Secret Skincare, which is really great. But for me personally, I don't love oils, and not everybody does. So sometimes I think, going for, just a basic moisturizer is really good.
Okay. So if we were to use an oil, just for those people out there who do love using an oil, do you put oil over moisturizer, instead of moisturizer, under moisturizer?
Yeah,
How does it work?
I would put it underneath. But, both of them, you definitely wouldn't want to put before serums because they will impact the absorption of any sort of serums that are going to go onto the surface. And also as well, I actually said to a client the other day, I'm like, you may not necessarily use them together. You may want to put an oil on, as opposed to your moisturizer, and maybe alternate it as opposed to overloading with lots of, barrier smothering ingredients.
Yeah. And can you use two serums? So could you use, for instance, in the morning, if you wanted to use like a hyaluronic and then followed by a vitamin C, can they be absorbed if you use one serum over the top of the other? Or
yeah, you can. Yeah. You can mix them up. And in actual fact, some companies already do preparations with, combine ingredients together as well. What I would be mindful of.
So we can just do that at home. We can take a squirt of everything and mix it all together and Oh, you can?
Just be mindful of, exfoliating ingredients. You don't want to be sort of combining a lot of exfoliating ingredients together because you're going to potentially cause skin irritation. So, things like there's ingredients called alpha hydroxy acids that could be lactic acid or glycolic acid in combination with your retinol. So sometimes I suggest to clients, you could potentially alternate those as your night treatment. But, certainly things like vitamin B and vitamin C,
Right.
you can use them both in the same session, and obviously as well with your hyaluronic too.
Right. There's so much price difference in products you see out there. You can go online on some websites and you can see a face cream for $350 and you can pop down to the local chemist or the department store and find something so much cheaper. What should we spend on? What should we save?
I think for me, the important things, that are going to bring about most change are your serums. So often I'll sort of say to my clients, as opposed to going into like a department store and sort of opting for some of those brands, I may say to them, just go and get, go to the chemist and get like a QV or a Cetaphil or a La Roche-Posay, sort of, a more affordable cleanser and moisture, and then start off on your serums. But I guess, it's like anything, buying a car, you've got your cheaper versions, you've got your more expensive versions. So, some of these more expensive versions, it could be expensive because of branding companies, but at the same time, it could be, particularly when you're looking in your more medical clinics at times as well, it could be that there's a lot more research and science and preparation and more sort of, specific processes that have gone into sort of manufacturing and making those products. So cheap is not always better, expensive is not always better. I think it's working with everybody's budget and kind of looking at what the priorities are for each person, and then sort of, then working out and navigating how we can kind of optimize, what's going to be more affordable than not. Yeah.
Right. So essentially cleansers, we could go more budget on cleansers and moisturizers if we are using serums.
I think if you're budget conscious, that would be my probably tip that I kind of say to clients sometimes is, if they're choosing between opting for their treatment serum or for their cleanser, I would say to them, go and get, a more affordable cleanser from your chemist, and then, invest in your serums a little bit more. Yeah. But also as well, when you do go into clinics too and different, beauticians or dermotherapy clinics, within the clinic as well, there's often different price points on different products too. So, they may still have, different ranges that have got excellent products that can be at a slightly different price point that you could choose between.
Yeah, it is very confusing. I was in a chemist the other day and I was looking at serums, and there are, even in the chemist range, there are so many. There was one for $12 and there was one for $72, and it was like, where do you pick and what, can we identify on the box what the key ingredients are and what's going to really work?
Yeah. No.
Or is it just
there's so many there's so many products and brands out there, and I guess from a clinical perspective, look at the brands that have got more sort of clinical studies and papers and support on. They're going to have way more background and research, and I kind of think of that as well. In terms of the type of ranges you're choosing from. They're going to have a lot of research and development that goes into them, with some of the lot more well-known brands, or the brands that you're going to get in your kind of etc., or your beauty dermotherapy places. So if it's overwhelming, I would say, invest in that initial consultation with somebody that's a little bit more keyed into looking at your skin and looking at what your skin needs, and then going from there in terms of, guiding you and supporting you into what you need to purchase.
I think the hard thing is now so much of what we buy is online. So we're not getting that interaction when we go to the department store and we go to the beauty counter and we have a chat with the lady there, and we're not getting that advice. I remember, years ago, sort of like browsing around beauty counters and picking up bits of advice from different areas. And that was great because you could sort of then put it all into the mix and see what you came out with. But it's harder now when we look at, I suppose we can look at reviews or that kind of thing is really the only guidance that we can use. But it's good advice of working within your budget and looking at those serums.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there anything else that midlife women should be conscious of, should be aware of when we're looking at skincare?
I think, as I say, keep it simple. Look at nourishing the inside as well as the outside to support. Obviously, you do tend to get a bit more dry and depleted as you get through midlife, but then you've also got clients that get your perimenopausal, menopausal acne as well as they're going through hormone changes. As I said, keep it simple. And if you're unsure, go and get a consultation. It's a lot of places sometimes do offer complimentary skin consultations so they can have a look, or, it's worth, I think, investing that, $100 or whatever for a consult so that you've got that baseline then in terms of, selecting and picking what you need for your skin. Yeah. The other important thing I find is what I advise is, our skin does change as we age and we've got more risk. So not only from a cosmetic perspective, from a skin health perspective, is making sure that you are getting regular skin checks, whether that's at your GP or your dermatologist, just to make sure that you haven't got any abnormal changes that are happening.
Right. In terms of sunscreen, is that, if we're using retinol, is it true that we need to be a lot more vigilant with the sunscreen?
Yeah, I say with everyone, we're concerned with aging. Everyone needs to be concerned with sunscreen. So I think, yes, there are certain ingredients that potentially can make you a little bit more sun sensitive. And so, sunscreen is a really, really crucial thing that should be incorporated into our daily routine. So making sure that our face, neck and neck has got sunscreen on a daily basis. I think people tend to focus on, there are different types of UV rays. You've got UVB rays, they're your burning rays. They're the ones that people worry about most on a sunny day. But you've also got UVA rays, aging rays. So they're much more longer penetrating. They're around rain, hail or shine. So getting into the routine of sunscreen daily. Now, sunscreen, again, is a minefield. There's so many irritating sunscreens or sunscreens that congest the skin. So again, I think it's about finding the right sunscreen for your skin types. There are some fantastic ones you'll get, again, in your derm clinics or, your medical clinics or your beauty or dermal therapy clinics that are designed to be non-congesting, but also give you that SPF protection.
Yeah.
And I think for SPFs, it's getting in the habit of having, over 30 plus SPF, having something that's UVA and UVB broad spectrum so that it's protecting. But sunscreen is really crucial. Yeah.
So the broad spectrum actually means that it covers UVA and UVB.
Correct. Different. Right? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So it's correct, covering different ways. Yeah.
And are we okay to go with a supermarket brand of sunscreen? Is there much difference between the high-end, more expensive ones and the cheaper ones?
You'll definitely notice a difference in the feel of them, I would say, particularly when it comes to the face. So some people can get really irritated, but I guess my tip would be, if you do get irritated by sunscreens, maybe opt for things like physical sunscreens over chemical sunscreens. So your physical sunscreens work by actually popping a layer on the surface and then they deflect the rays, whereas chemical sunscreens work by getting absorbed a little bit into the surface and then deflect the rays. So I would probably, if you're going to go for a sunscreen that you're not sure if it's going to suit you, or if you are a sensitive, irritable skin, then things with like zinc and titanium dioxide are probably going to be the ones that you're going to go for. I do find, though, sometimes even myself, when I've gone for sunscreens in the supermarket, they tend to be a lot more thicker and gluggier. So sometimes you can get much more lightweight, non-comedogenic preparations that are better for your face in your clinic and whatnot. But even in your Meccas now, I've got a really excellent range in your Sephoras of sunscreen that are really good for your face too. Sunscreen's also a bit of an experience in terms of what people like the feel of as well. So go in and try them out.
That's true.
I'm obsessed with Airy Day. Airy Day is my favourite range. And they've got something for
we'll check that one out.
Yeah.
Okay. My other question was sunscreen in terms of order of products. So you've done your cleansing, you've done your serum, you've done your moisturizer. is it sunscreen before makeup or makeup over sunscreen?
No.
How does it,
Sunscreen before makeup. So pop your sunscreen on and then pop your makeup on top. And what I really love now, there's quite a few companies out there that have also prepared little sunscreen brushes, which do have your mineral sunscreen, and they're in a little powder formation. And you can actually dab them on top of your makeup so that you don't need to sort of, because obviously we should be reapplying sunscreen if we're out and about. But these little brushes are really excellent just to kind of dab over your makeup, just to kind of ensure that you've still got that protection happening throughout the day if you're out and about and you're really exposed to the sun.
I've heard also you can get spray on sunscreen for your face, which is like, I've never seen it and I've never seen it in the shop or tried it, but it's just a very light mist that you can spray over to your face. So I'm looking forward to those as well.
I guess the important.
So should we reapply? Sorry.
I was going to say with the spray on sunscreens, I've tried a couple. And, I guess what you've got to be really careful of is some of them are invisible. It's a clear mist. You've got to ensure that you've covered all of the skin. So, you've got to make sure that you're getting the right coverage. And for some people, the sprays can be a little bit irritating. So, again, just do a little test patch and make sure they work for you. But I like the good old-fashioned, apply with my hands, make sure I've got plenty on. I've got it over everywhere. And we always forget our top of our ears and the back of our necks, so make sure that we're including those in our sunscreen preparation.
We do. We certainly do.
For the guys.
And should we all know that, if you're going for a day at the beach, you reapply sunscreen every couple of hours. If we're out and about just doing our things during the day, do we need to be reapplying sunscreen on our face, or is it good for the day?
We should be, and they do advise that, and that's why now they've brought out a lot of these preparations that you can kind of add on top. But it's only going to have a certain amount of protection on the skin. So, you can usually look at the bottles and, it does tend to have a guidance depending on which product that you've got on how often that you should reapply. But, certainly if somebody is out and about all day, then, they do need to be reapplying sunscreen. And so it's getting in the habit of doing that. I really like it as well. A lot of companies now will do small little preparations or mini size things that you can pop into your handbag so that you can just, sort of quickly reapply. Yeah, but my favourite is the brushes.
Absolutely.
And then that way.
And hands.
Sorry.
The brushes are good?
Yeah, I think just to kind of, top over everything, and that way you're not kind of having to worry about, oh my gosh, is my makeup going to be moved? It's kind of giving you that physical coverage over that then.
Yeah. I think hands as well. I think we often forget about our hands, but our hands also are one of the first places that we start to see those, those age spots and the lines and wrinkles. So is it true that we should just rub into our hands what we use on our face?
So you should be having a preparation that's 30 to 50 SPF coverage and making sure that you're using a good amount. So, you don't want to just be rubbing leftovers. You want to make sure that you've got a good amount that you're putting on the back of the hands, and you're actually right there. We get our hands the most exposed things. And then also as well, we wash our hands continuously. So, any sort of preparations we're going to be putting on there will get washed off easily. So again, reapplying is really good. But, in terms of patience, as you get through those, later stages, I find, clients may not necessarily just want to focus on face, neck and chest. It's then their hands that are then starting to show, aging changes happening. That could be pigment texture, all those sorts of things.
Yeah. Can we use our not sunscreen, but our face products on our hands?
You can effectively use them.
So if you're having sun damage on your face, you can use it?
Yeah, it's just going to be an expensive way to do it, but definitely, yeah.
Okay. All right. Lisa, you have been amazing. Thank you so much. I have learned so much about skincare.
Thank you, Anita.
Please tell us where we can find you.
Yep.
Please tell us where we can find you.
Yeah, so our clinic's located in Paddington in Sydney. It's Lisa Rush Skin Clinic, and our website is lisarush.com.au. And I'm more than happy if anyone wants to ask any questions, just shoot us a message or an email, which is available via our website, and we're more than happy to help out. Thanks for having me.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Lisa. No, it's been great. It's been really informative and so great to have a chat to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please like, share, and subscribe so you can stay updated with more from Midlife Unraveled. To see more Midlife Unraveled, follow us at midlifeunraveled.com or at Midlife Unraveled on Facebook and Instagram. We'll see you soon.